Comedy Dish.
Co-starring Rick Wright and Stephen Allen Green.
And there we are.
Good evening. Good evening. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, worldwide, but
Yes,
specifically in two main countries, the U.S. and the U.K. How are you, Brian?
good. I'm in a good mood considering that the story I wanted to tell is we had this little thing going on in London this past weekend that
What thing?
where that guy dressed in the Burger King outfit and they put a crown on
that
his
thing,
head.
yeah, the coronation. Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So because of that, they had a bank holiday.
Explain to Americans what a bank holiday is.
No, it's the same thing as like we get the Monday off for Labor Day or Memorial Day. It's they just call it a bank holiday, but it's not necessarily doesn't have a special name or anything. In fact, they regularly have two in the month of May, usually the first Monday and the last Monday. And
right. The banks are closed. The banks are closed. That's
yes,
the point, right?
no postal delivery and schools are out and things like that. So
Okay.
So anyway, on Monday morning, I'm having breakfast, some cornflakes, and suddenly I'm thinking, "Oh, this feels odd in my tooth," and I apparently had chipped a tooth, and I realized, "Oh, I can't call a dentist today because we have this unnecessary bank holiday." So, I've been it's been painful to eat for the past few days, but I am seeing the dentist tomorrow.
Good.
But
Well, I'm sorry you're going through that. Do you know Simon Godley?
do I know? Is he English or?
Yes. Simon is the comedian's dentist. He's a comedian himself who's been in done Edinburgh shows and been on radio, has his own show on Radio 4 or something like that. And that's how I met Eddie Izzard at his practice. He's in Notting Hill. He's a really funny guy, and he's really a good dentist.
Oh, I wish I'd known about that one. I mean, I still.
I'm sorry I didn't know. I would have told you.
Yeah, I still go to the dentist in Dagenham because that's where they have all my records.
Dagenham. Yeah. They ought to take a tooth and Dagenham.
That's the one.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you're in pain.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it just depends on what I'm eating or drinking that makes a difference. Anything with citrus in it, that goes right through. And but I had pasta for dinner tonight, and it was fine. So, yeah, just one of these things that and when you get to my age, things like that happen, and so we'll deal with it, and hopefully it won't. Because I've got.
Well, it's not a sign you're growing old. I mean, babies have toothaches and problems. I mean, come on, cut it out.
Sure. Well,
stop this oldness. How's the comedy scene? How's the pub quiz scene? How's my dear old London? I miss her so.
Yeah, London is. It's finally feeling like spring here. It's there's a although it's still raining quite a bit, but the days I don't have to wear 3 layers of clothing to go out to get a paper. So that's a good feeling.
You still get a paper?
I still read the newspaper every day. Well, I don't read the newspaper.
Which paper do you read? Which newspaper do you favor?
I must say I read the Daily Mail, and I have to skip through the first 30 pages or so when they talk about how wonderful the royal family is or how wonderful Brexit is. But they have these trivia sections where I get some really good quiz questions. So
I see.
So
you're not a Guardian. You're not a Guardian reader?
I think the writers for the Guardian are excellent. There's a guy named Jonathan Friedland who does some excellent columns on American politics. I'm sure he'd have a lot to write about this week.
That's one of the things I miss about England is, of course, I can go online now and read British publication articles about America from their point of view. But it was something about being in England and living in England and reading those that really, it's kind of like leaving a bad relationship, and it takes a long time look at it and you don't want to look at it and you think, it's
Mm.
over. Oh, I miss her. Oh, it's over. And then suddenly something gives you a clue as to why it didn't work out. Like you find out, she's in the occult. Um, she's a Republican. Things like that. Anyway, we have a fantastic show. We have actually three guests today.
Yeah, they're all
Our
staggered.
main guest, the Lion. Hmm?
Yeah, they're staggered through the show, but but we have one constant. So
We have one constant, who's just probably the smartest man in comedy, I think. Dylan Brody. He's going to be with us, and then later, towards the end of the show, my friend Danny LaBelle is going to come on for 5 minutes and talk about what happened at his house, some horrific crime, and what he's doing to remedy that. But in the meantime, we had our last week's guest, who was just a great guest. I knew this guy when I lived and worked in London, and I'm so happy to see that he's still doing stuff and spry and young looking, and he's going to tell us. I'm confused whether Neil's going to tell us a story or complete a story. Either way, please welcome once again Neil Masters.
Hey, good evening, everybody, or
Hey,
afternoon,
good evening.
wherever you are.
Good afternoon, Neil.
Yeah, good afternoon, Steve.
and good evening from me.
Hi, Brian.
Good.
It was last week, but should I do the little bit of memorabilia first or tell my story?
Well, we only have 5 minutes because.
Oh well, I will be
Whatever
very
you think.
tight. It's a tight five. Well, all right, I'll tell the story first, and then I'll flash what I'm going to show you.
Okay.
Last week you hinted at that I was part of the HBO festival in Aspen, Colorado, and how I got, involved in that. Well, when I got because since Brian told me that the theme of the show is about war stories, when I got involved in that, the festival had an open call of sorts. You had to kind of semi audition in advance, but an open call of sorts in 4 cities in the U.S. And I couldn't get into any of them, but I got into the one in Boston. And 10 o'clock in the morning, no audience, just a panel. And then the other, well, maybe let's say 50 comics that were entered. And what they have you do is 2 minutes. 2 minutes, which I really focused on at home. I couldn't get any rhythm or anything. And then when you hit the 2-minute mark, light comes up. They just light you off, say thank you very much. So when I did my 2 minutes, I had no idea how it went. So I thought, all right, I'm just going to sit and watch everybody. Then I'll come back in the evening for the showcase and try to figure out why they picked this person. So it lasted all day. I get back to my hotel room and the phone rings. And they say, and it's a representative of somebody you probably know, Stephen, Lou Viola, a name you may know in the comedy world.
Why does that name so familiar to me? Who's wait a minute. Lou Viola sounds so familiar to me. Was he an agent at APA?
I think he was there, and also something called the U.S. Comedy
Festival in Aspen.
Yeah, I think that's it. But
I remember dealing with him. Yeah.
But he had this whole saying that we don't know what we want, but we know it when we see it. And so I know, but that's his phrase. So, but anyway, I get back to my hotel room, phone rings, and they call me back. They say, "We liked what you did. Can you come back tonight and do 6 minutes?" And I'd only prepared the 2 minutes. They said you can do the same 2 again and then add to it. And I thought I'd never get beyond the 2 minutes, so I did the 6 minutes, which was fine. I came in third in the evening, but moving on to Aspen, actually performing in Aspen, you had to win the heat, and I didn't win the heat, but I got to be one of the finalists in the heat. So that's what happened.
That's a great story. Now let me just comment. First of all, that's a great story. Secondly, I like what you did here, but I'm going to need to see you do it again, but 3 times as long next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
That's exactly what it was.
Did that finally boomerang back to you? We got to bring Dylan on. Did you have some memorabilia quickly?
Yeah, I'll just show this quickly because this one, I think you know this guy.
Oh, there you
Yeah.
go.
Yes, the angry Rick,
Yeah.
angry with hair.
I found a lot of
Yeah,
a
Rick's
file of
hair
this-
actually has. Rick's hair, by the way, Neil. Rick's hair has a thriving career in Vegas on its own. Just goes by
Ah.
the title Rick's hair.
You know, about a year ago, somebody posted that picture. It was Roger Monkhouse posted that picture on Facebook. Said, "Can you name who this is?" And
Oh, wow.
you know, I said, "Yeah, I recognize him," but it didn't stop a couple people from making snide comments about you know, about
What did Susan Murray say?
that's exactly who I was referring to. Made some
What did she
comment
say?
about. I can't remember the exact words, but it was essentially saying, "Oh, I recognize that hack anywhere," something like that.
All right, what is it between you and Susan? Let's talk about this for just another 30 seconds. What is it?
I don't know. I was her tenant for about 10 months.
Okay.
And didn't have any problems there, although she did evict me because she decided she wanted to move back into the place with her boyfriend. But I just always got the impression she doesn't like my act. Fine, you know, I can live with that. But when she made that there was years ago, she made some comment about hating cricket and why do people care about it, and I just made a half-assed remark of well, I guess I won't talk about baseball then, and all I get from her is "fuck off." So I just thought,
there's something about British female comics that when they don't like you, you're not going to know why. Joe Brand didn't like me. It seemed. I like her. She's one of my favorite comics in the world. But I don't think she personally liked me. Anyway, Neil, thanks for bringing on that great story.
Yeah,
and
Paul Vallis, we
more
talked about him
memorabilia.
last week.
who is that?
Paul Vallis. Look
Oh.
at Paul Vallis. He just moved to
Yeah.
Spain with his new wife
Yeah.
Oh wow! Oh, I recognize him. Yeah.
Yeah. See,
from
that's the other
L.A.
Paul Vallis.
And is that Milton Jones?
No, it's still Paul Vallis.
Love Paul
Oh,
Vallis. Paul.
Looks like a handsome Milton Jones.
Paul gave me a lot of work. Very talented guy. Yeah.
Anyway,
Neil, I got to say bye, but come back again. Maybe you could be a regular.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Maybe you could be a semi-regular and come back every.
Business card.
Oh wow! That's when I have Pandelic Films. Bring it closer. Bring it closer. 1A Mortimer Square. That's my office home. Wow,
Man,
wow.
I
That's incredible. That's a whole other life, man.
Yeah, so I told you I had some bits and pieces.
All right, Neil, Neil. We got to move on. Neil, thank you so much. We're gonna have you. Let's have you come back. Let's have a segment called Neil's Memorabilia. And I'm serious, something like that. We love you, Neil. You have a good week, man. Thank you. All right, that's Neil. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're right back with Dylan Brody right after this. It's Comedy Dish.
Co-starring Rick Wright and Stephen Allen Green.
So,
Okay, Brian, I'm looking forward to this. I've known this gentleman for as long as I've known any comedian in Hollywood. Goes back to the 80s. Always found him funny, and he masterfully found and crafted a career in a whole other world ancillary to comedy. And I had him on my Real Comedy Stories show April 17th at Genghis Cohen. It was a great show. And he's got a whole bunch of stuff to tell us. He's always interesting. Please welcome Mr. Dylan Brody. Hello, Dylan Brody.
Turn up the sound.
He's got himself on mute.
Oh, there we go. Hello, Stephen Allen Green and Brian Seff. I assumed you would unmute me when you it would automatically happen when I was brought out of the back room. How are you guys?
Yes, just fine. Was there some good treats in the green room? I mean,
it was fantastic. I appreciate that you did the vegetable spread. Although, if I'm being honest, I overindulged in the opium.
That was actually meant for next.
The opium. Opium was mine.
Oh, geez, I am so sorry. If you like, I can have my agent arrange to have that replaced for you.
All right, then.
Dylan, we got you a little bit too loud again. If you can turn down your volume.
I will just turn down my volume a little bit. That's fine. Is that better?
Thank you. I'm sorry. It's not that we don't want to hear you. It's just that it's distorted.
No, it's fine. It's a high quality microphone, and I'm used to projecting.
No,
I know.
And I have housemate.
I have my gain down as far as I can take it.
I'm already tripping, man.
I love you so much right now. Hi, thanks for having me on. It is a joy to speak to you both. I do want to disagree with you. I don't think that story we just heard was that good.
Oh.
Well,
I'm just such an ass. I'm such an ass. I just come on and insult the previous guest. Yes.
I have to say, Dylan, everything can improve. Let's put it that way.
I couldn't agree with you more.
No,
sorry, I got loud.
I remember. Ooh.
Stand by. We will make that stop.
Okay. Yeah,
What's happening?
he's grown his hair long. I guess he does have a dog in the house. You've got longer hair and blonder hair since I last saw you.
It's white. It's gray. It's not blonde at all. It's pure white. Until that's not me. I don't believe. Until
nothing here.
No, I put that in just because it's trippy.
Oh, sweet! Thank you very much.
Just a bed. It may not work, but it's a bed.
The long hair I began growing about 2 years ago when I discovered that my hairstylist was just a little bit racist, and I no longer wanted to visit with her. So I let the hair start to grow, and then I wrote a novel about Merlin. And while I was writing that, I let the beard grow out, and I did some publicity stills to help people who have no imagination understand what the hell I was writing about. That book is about to come out through a traditional publishing contract with a small English publisher called Danu Books, right there in London with you, Brian. Oh, thank God, it was like a headache lifting.
How tall is this publisher that you want to denigrate him and say that he's small? How tall is he? What's his height?
Oh, it's a she, and I don't know her height. I'm just saying it is a small. All of my books thus far have gone out through independent or hybrid publishers. I had my first proper legacy contract. Could we turn off the music? I hate to be a micromanager of your show, but I'm finding it so distracting that I almost...
If he picked another tune, would that help?
I don't know. I'm just now beginning to incorporate music into my own work.
Hang on. Hey, Morty, tell the band to cut it out. There we go.
Oh, thank you. And how much is it to not play? The book was supposed to, Relatively Painless, was supposed to come out 2020, and it was tied to a book tour because I had opened for David Sedaris, and suddenly I had a little bit of cachet as a literary performer.
And then, of course...
And I want to ask you about that. First, I want to educate all of our non-educated people in the audience. David Sedaris, I would have Dylan describe him, but he's a fantastic writer and humorist from... this guy's on the level of the Algonquin Round Table. And he's... Dylan, fill us in on David Sedaris, then tell us the story.
David Sedaris is a humorist. He now does the what were the Andy Rooney spots on? It was Andy Rooney, right? Am I getting that wrong?
60 Minutes.
Is he on
right?
60 Minutes?
60 Minutes. Oh yeah, he's doing the 60-minute Andy Rooney spots. He became a best-selling author after NPR's Morning Edition ran a piece of his called "The Santaland Diaries" about his work as an elf for a Santa in New York. And then his first book came out and was a massive bestseller. And I became acquainted with his work and sent him a fan letter. And he responded. And I sent him a couple of CDs, and he responded. And then a terrible agent that I had said, "Oh, you should approach him for a blurb for your next book."
Yeah.
So I did. And he sent me a page-long typed letter explaining to me why he would not give me a blurb and why he hoped I would not consider him a monster for that. And I assured him that that was fine and asked his advice on some things. And we became sort of pen pals. And then when he was going to be performing in LA, when he was going to be performing at the Pasadena Civic Center as a KPCC promoted event, and I was doing regular appearances on KPCC for a show called Off Ramp, he said, "Would you like to do 7 minutes before I go up?"
Wow.
And I said, yes, 1,000 times yes. And it went very nicely. I was the first person he had ever shared his stage with. And then when he was coming back out the next year, he invited me to perform with him in San Diego and up in San Francisco. And then the following year, he had me do, and these are audiences bigger than any I have ever been able to draw myself. Like my career is sort of an ongoing object exercise in proving that I am not a draw. And this guy is filling, 2,400 seat auditoriums. And I got to work these rooms and really feel what it was like when I was in front of the right audience for the kind of intellectual material that I'm doing now.
Dylan, let me interrupt you. You just described exactly that mysterious thing I keep forgetting what I'm looking for, to define success. What you just said, the kind of audience, say it again, please.
I found the kind of audience that is right for the sort of work that I am doing.
That's
the
it.
Intellectual
That's
material I'm working with.
That's exactly what I want.
Yeah, you weren't looking for comedy club audiences anyway.
Yeah. Oh, no. Once I shifted from straight ahead stand-up comedy to long-form storytelling, it really, I can still do comedy clubs and I book in them, but I don't book in for a weekend. I book in for a one-nighter so that I can show up. The people who dig what I do can show up for a night, because the people who are going to a comedy club to hear people curse and I don't know. I don't do the 4 to 1 laugh per minute ratio anymore.
Let me ask you guys something about this, because this is something that I've always dreamed of, and I think I used to see it back in the day. I'd like to be part of, or see, or produce a comedy show that had a Shecky comedian who was really funny, and a storytelling, witty, humorist comedian. Why can't they be on the same show? Why can't the audience go, all right, the MC, that's where the MC comes in. He goes, okay, this next act is not, just relax and open your mind. Please welcome. That's all you got to say. Why can't it work?
Because since 1987, American audiences in particular, because it was working very nicely for me in England. I could go up in any room and own it. And there was a while in the early aughts when I was doing it in some comedy clubs, I would just walk in, take control of the stage, and change the pace. But still, I would need to make sure that I had the stories that were the funniest, right, for that to work. I imagine I could still do that if I needed to in a showcase lineup. But the truth is, the audience has been trained to expect certain things. And that's not a cheapening of the craft. It's just a shifting of the focus in particular rooms.
It's in the mainstream comedy clubs, there is a kind of a benchmark that they expect, and if you deviate from that,
well, that's what they're coming to see. They're coming to see fish and chips comedy, and then you're serving them up, Simpsons on the Strand roast beef under a silver platter. It may be better, but that ain't what we want, mate. We came for fish and chips.
This is the very reason that I don't try to book out a weekend, because I don't want people showing up just thinking, oh, it's a night of comedy, like I'm used to from television. Right. I want the people who come to the club to know they are coming to a show with a person that either they know his work or they know the sort of work they're getting into.
Let me ask you this, because I've been working on this very thing myself. I'm Brian. I really want you to participate in today's show, by the way. I know you have been, but
let me tell you right now. I'm going to cut you off, Stephen, because I got to say this. I have a catalog
I'm not worried about being being shut out then.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dylan.
I have
Him.
I have a Rolodex of debts that I accrued over the time that I was broke and living on the roof of the Comedy Store and miserable. And when I was in England last, I was finally able to see Brian and give him back the $20 that I owed him. Might have been 40 from the 1980s.
Yes, you bought me lunch.
And I wound up, I wound up doing a buying lunch, and it was one of the great reliefs of my life was to get to just take that debt off.
I had no memory of it whatsoever, but it stayed in your.
I owe a lot of money to a lot of people, and I haven't forgotten one.
Interesting. When you were there in London, the day that I met up with you, we went to see your show about a week later, but when we met up with you, it was the day after the tower caught on fire, and then people were 30-some people were killed in this. You're
talking about not Trellick, the Grenfell.
The Grenfell Tower,
right near my flat in Notting Hill. I used to walk by there all the time.
Yeah,
listen, we're at the mark. We got this is such. See what I love about the show. It's energizing for me. This is fantastic. We're going to do our first pub quiz now, and we one of three. So here we go. All right. By the way, Harry Sachs says you look blonde to him.
Well, he's mistaken. It's pure white.
All right. So our first pub quiz. So we have three questions. Each answer is worth a point. We do 3 rounds. Brian is a quiz master. It's Dylan versus Steven. Here we go.
All right. I'm going to try this one first because this couple teams got this last night, but I just thought the category is fads of the past. And the question is, what U.S. crooner reached number 75 on the U.S. charts and number 22 on the U.K. charts with his 1962 song, Everybody's Twisting?
Was it Tiny Tim?
No, it was before Tiny Tim hit. This was someone who was already well established.
Crooner, so I'll just start with the top and say Sinatra.
It was Sinatra.
Hey, there you go.
Yeah, Everybody's Twisting. I was listening to a bunch of Sinatra the other day, and I had that one, and I go, oh, this should be interesting.
Okay, 1-0.
Okay. Second question. Medical breakthrough. A new drug called Dohanamab. I think that Donanamab. It doesn't matter. It's if taken by a monthly.
It sounds like it too.
Donanemab. If taken by a monthly infusion for 18 months, it's believed to be effective in combating which usually fatal disease?
Parenthood.
Marriagehood. I said marriage. You said childhood?
I said parenthood.
Parenthood. I said marriage. That's hilarious.
Yeah, well, you both were thinking sarcastically, but I was looking for a real answer.
What chronic disease did you say, or what fatal disease?
Well, usually fatal disease. Yeah.
I am going to say boredom.
I'll say a version of that. Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's is the answer. So.
No kidding.
I've never done this well, and I'm going against the smartest comic in the room. I've never done this well. Okay, wow. I know it's going to come back to me in the second, third round, but third question, Brian.
Okay, card games. How many cards are dealt to each player to start a game of gin rummy?
7?
9.
That's rummy. Nope. It is 10.
10. Nice.
10. Okay. All right.
Because you wind up when you finally get gin, with 4, 3, and 3. That's 10 cards.
I should have been able to do that math, shouldn't I?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Well, that's the first pub quiz. Let's get back with our time with Dylan Brody. This is Stephen Allen Green, Brian Seff, Comedy Dish, which is sponsored by Negron Area Rugs. We'll be right back.
Iron! I need an iron! Sorry.
Well, we used to run that clip, but the internet police busted us. But yeah, we used to do that every week. We used to, you don't want carpet, you want an act.
I
All right,
love
so
that,
Dylan, here's
man.
the question. Here's the question I had
Yes.
for you relating to the last section of conversation. This is something that I, as a comedian and as a, I think of myself as a comedy artist because I think of comedy as an art, and I'm a practitioner in it. Retooling is my thing right now. Image, but also what I do, both, and they should align at some point. And sometimes image is so I can see where I want to be. My question really is, retooling in terms of you're going Dylan Brody being booked in a comedy club in a comedy show is going to stand out either in a great way or a bad way because what he's delivering is completely different than what the expectations of the club is. So my point is there a way to compromise but without compromise, but to meet the needs of the audience halfway and throw in a dick joke, as it were?
Well, yes and no. Absolutely, it is possible for me to do what I do and meet the needs of a comedy club. And I'm certainly not above a dick joke. I mean, even when I was a hardcore left-leaning 4-to-1 laugh per minute machine gun stand-up comic, working politics all the time, I used to do a whole run of condom jokes because, as Jackie Cation pointed out to me, they're topical. You apply them directly to the penis. The ability to work a comedy club has to do with how regularly you're funny, not with the nature of the material you do. Although to some degree, when I was too stoned in the 80s and 90s to understand why I was having trouble building a career, I was working the laugh per minute ratio, but my politics were very much out of step with the times.
We're talking the Reagan years, right?
We're talking the Reagan and Bush 1 years when Kinison and Clay and Tim Allen were rising through the ranks. And what was being looked for television, for success, financially successful comedy, was reactionary nonsense that masqueraded as cutting edge liberalism because some of them cursed, right? Of course, Tim Allen was Disney clean all the time, and he wound up with 2 successful sitcoms about how misogyny is never funny. That's not how they pitched it. That's my review. Now, when I was going on stages then, I was doing very much what everyone else was doing in terms of the aggressive nature of the persona and the hostility that seemed to be part of the wardrobe of every comic coming up in the era of Kinison, because there was so much cocaine around. But once I peeled all of that back and came down to the humanity of what I am and who I want to say, that's never changed. And my ability to build jokes around those ideas has never been lost. So, for instance, while it used to be that the piece that I have that I wrote because I heard Holocaust deniers at the bar at a club used to be a series of jokes that I rattled off angrily at the audience. It later became a really interesting series of jokes within a story that are told by my grandmother. The material itself still stands and still works and still has the impact and still has all the laughs it needs to work in a comedy club. But now it's given a whole different context and a whole different feel as I deliver it. I've done, there were a couple of nights, it's not since before COVID. That's not true. I did Alameda Comedy Club a year or two ago. But before COVID, I did a couple of nights where I was at the Improv showcasing with the comics, with the regular comics. And it's not as though what I did didn't really work, right? But a club owner needs to be comfortable with the idea that there may be silence for a minute.
Yeah. Well, you just reminded me of when I was first starting and working at the Comedy Store, I remember going to the LA Cabaret and Jeff Wayne was running it, and he was auditioning. I went there on audition night, and he'd Ruby, so I had kind of a pretty clear shot, but he wanted to see me anyway.
Also, your guitar matched his backdrop.
If I remember correctly, yes. But he was doing it in the front room. But I just remember these poor comics. I mean, he gave me, he put me right through. But these other comics, Jeff would be eating a pizza and then going while the comics are struggling. He said, "I sure can't wait for the comedy to start," and and just completely deflate them.
He was mean.
Some of them were
mean.
walking from LA to they missed the bus and they're walking.
Yeah. To be insulted.
Yeah, and to be pretty much talked out of pursuing it any further.
Yeah.
What's your worst transportation story? I got one. I'll tell you really quick, and maybe it might inspire you. Club in the Midlands in Chester, with a round Roman wall around it, ancient wall. At a jazz club called Alexander's had a one night a week, really good paid, greatest audience in the Midlands, and I worked it, and did great, and that's more than just killed. In other words, I killed, but I also made them like me and feel relaxed, and
they wanted to have your
more.
babies.
They want my babies. So I was rebooked, and I couldn't find anyone to drive up with me, so I rented a car. As we say in England, I hired a car. And ironically, Chester is surrounded by an ancient Roman wall. So is something called the North Circular, which is the big freeway that just encircles outer London. And I left the house at noon to get to an 8 o'clock gig at a 3-hour drive. I didn't realize I was going in circles for 2 hours because it was such slow traffic, and I didn't have GPS. And I was looking at a map, and I missed the gig. That's my missing a gig story.
I missed a gig. There's no irony in it at all. Just embarrassment, shame, and at the time,
even better. We love it better.
Even at the time, the certainty that I was ruining my career. Bob Zaney booked me for a gig. At this time, I was riding a Honda 750 Hawk. Beautiful motorcycle that I loved dearly, but I had no license, and it was unregistered. And I had no
license. You've always had poetic license.
Well, thank you, but the cops don't care. And I left for this gig. Made a wrong turn off a freeway, got back onto the right freeway, and then I felt like I was running late, so I was speeding. And a cop, I saw the lights behind me come up, and I didn't want to get pulled over without a license or a registration. So I cranked it up to 100, pulled off in front of a truck, and then hit on the other side of the truck for a while, and then pulled off the freeway and pulled into a Denny's and ordered coffee. And the cop pulled off the freeway and waited at the entrance ramp. And I saw him sitting there. And after half an hour, I called Zaney and said, "I'm sick. I'm not going to be able to make it." And he said, "Oh, you should have given me more warning. Fuck, I'm never booking you again." And I said, "I'm really sorry, man. There's nothing I can do." And I hung up, and I wept at a Denny's until like an hour and a half later, the cop left. And then I went past him to get on the freeway going back the other way to go home.
And then you got stopped, right?
No, just got home and
great.
And was sure I had ruined my career because I'd missed a gig, and you don't ever do that. No matter what, you don't do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
Brian, that's a great story. It's got a lot of emotion to it. Drama. Brian, yours?
Mine that comes to mind anyway was a case of jonglers in Southampton, and they usually had Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I call during the week to confirm, and they say, "Okay, you're staying at the hotel," and they say, "Yes, Friday and Saturday," and then. So I'm home Thursday night. I get a call from my agent. "Why aren't you in Southampton?" And I said, "Because they didn't tell me I was working Thursday." And and he said, well, can you make it there? And, because I was going to be closing. And I thought, well, from where I live, that's about 2.5 to 3 hours drive. So I just said, no, I'm not going to do it. And then I called
Not gonna do it, or no, I can't make it.
I can't do it really. There was just no way I was going to get there. And so I called Donna, the one of the talent coordinators, and I said, "Yeah, this is Rick." And she goes, just go back to what you're doing. I don't want to talk to you." Yeah. And so then she called the next day. It was totally her fault that for this screw up, because she told me Friday and Saturday. She didn't know about Thursday. So she called me the next day and said, "Well, I don't know whose fault it was, but we're pulling you from the weekend." So,
Brian, did you get the sense? Did you ever get the sense? Because I got this every once in a while. Even though the British scene loved me, brought me in, I fit in most of the time. I did rankle some people, but there was sometimes I felt like there were people in the business that were nasty like that, like you just expressed, who maybe weren't even conscious, but it was an anti-American thing.
There were definitely comics that were anti-American, made me feel uncomfortable. Plus an American with a guitar, that was, that was 2 strikes against me. So yeah,
well, one of the biggest comics, Bill Bailey, is a guitar musical actor, guitar and keyboards.
Yeah. But he's English, so that's a big difference. But
one of the things I noticed, I want to tell this to Dylan specifically, and Brian, back me if you agree, is that when I got there before you did, Brian, but when I got there, I think it was the same by the time you got there. What I found amazing to me was that virtually every comic character in America on the circuit, at least in L.A. and New York, had a doppelganger in England. There was the Impressionist comic, there was a guitar comic, there was a nerd comic. It sounds like, well, it would be like that anywhere, Stephen, but it just seemed Earl Oaken and I became friends because when Earl and I met, we were like mirror images of each other.
Yeah, you do. At the time, you wore the same glasses he did.
And I had double tone shoes, and I had a guitar.
You dressed nice on stage, yeah. But Earl Oaken dressed nice, as soon as he got out of bed. He had the full suit on.
Dylan, what are you trying to say here?
I first became funny in England. I got it at the Improv when I was 17.
When were you there? When were you in England? I'm sorry for interrupting. The second time you're bringing this up. When were you first in England?
I studied at the Royal Academy in 84, 85.
Oh, wow.
As an actor? Really?
That was definitely before.
Yeah.
That's cool.
I had been doing stand-up for 3.5 years, 3 or 4 years. And I went to RADA. And then at night, I was doing all the open mics in the workout rooms. And because my rhythm was so different from anything else that was happening on stage around me, I was crushing. I was just having a wonderful time. It was the first time I ever had to do. I did a place called the Canal Cafe every week. That was they had an open mic on Wednesdays. It's where I ran my show when I went back in 2000 and whatever that was, 17, 16.
Do you mean the Comedy Cafe or do you mean the Comedy
the
Cafe?
Canal Cafe? I mean the Canal. I mean the Canal Cafe Theater. It was in Venice.
Okay.
On the canal.
You know what? You just reminded me. I did. If I'm just saying this to remind myself, and I'm going to find a picture of it. I can't believe I forgot this. But when I did my pre-Edinburgh run of my Jerry Lewis show, I did it there one night, and my agents from Avalon actually came down and seen me.
Sure, that's where I saw it. I saw you did a preview there.
Yeah, it's in Maida Vale.
Exactly right. And every Wednesday, I would be in the lineup, and then at the end of the lineup was a group called the Jockeys of Norfolk. That were a sketch group with Hugh Grant in it. And I did that every night. And then somebody walked up to me after a show and said, "Hey, I got this show at the Earth Exchange Cafe. It's a vegetarian buffet style restaurant. Can you do 25 minutes?" And I was like, yes, I am so ready to do 25 minutes. This is going to be great. And I walk into this place. It's packed. People are all at their tables, and then there are people sitting on the floor all the way up to the linoleum space that is considered the stage. And we've each got 25 minutes. It's 2-hour-long sets, 2-hour-long acts, right? The first act, the MC goes up and he introduces the lesbian poet. And she does, for her 25 minutes, she does one poem, and then she bails. And he brings up the musical team, and they do 2 songs, and someone yells at them, and they bail. And the comic who's supposed to go up after me walks over to the guy and says, "I'm out of here," and he leaves. And the MC brings me up.
Your 25 minutes became an hour.
Where is this taking place? Is this at the Canal Cafe Theater?
No, this was at the Earth Exchange, a vegetarian buffet restaurant. And I go up, and as I'm going on stage, he introduces me before taking an intermission. So I'm hearing my introduction. I go, "Oh, crap, I guess I'm on." And as he comes off, he goes, "Do like an hour," and walks off. And I have, 15 minutes of A material and a little bit of filler. And I'm not satisfied with any of it. But I've been at the Improv every night from the beginning of the show to the end of the show, any night that I had a set for 3 years in New York. So I go on. And I'm improvising, and I'm burning through my material, and I did some Ron Darien, and I did some Rondell Sheridan, and I did some Rich Hall. I stole from everybody I knew, and I spiraled into self-loathing as I did it, and I crushed.
Yeah.
And I came off filled with, for the first time, the sense that I could really do this. And the knowledge that I had to be very careful.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, first of all, I read stories that Leno and Richard Pryor both assumed other people's acts. I think Leno assumed down King's act, and Richard Pryor assumed Bill Cosby their first time on stage. But you're a veteran, so how could you
years later
something with other people's material?
Oh, because my own stuff was working. Because I held the stage for the whole time with confidence and certainty. Okay. Because I understood how the material worked well enough to be able to rebuild it from memory in the moment on the spot. There was a lot that was success in that night and a lot of guilt. Many years later, I ran into Rondell Sheridan on the road and talked to him about it. And he said, "Oh, for fun!" Like afterwards, he said, "Wait, what did you use? I got to write this down. What did you use?" And I told him what the bit was, and he said, "Okay." And what was it on? And I said, "Oh, it was just at a night at a horrible buffet dinner in England." He said, "Oh, for fuck's sake, Dylan, it's fine. You didn't do it on television. You did it somewhere in a gig. It's just don't do it again. And when someone steals material from you, let it go."
Yeah.
Yes.
Sweet.
Yes.
So this dovetails, Brian. This dovetails into our segment called "You've Been Hacked."
Yeah, go ahead. If Dylan has,
we're trying to mold a new segment called "You've Been Hacked."
I have a story for you on this.
Am I overtaking? Am I overtaking the combo? I don't mean to. I'm sorry. Okay. You have a story.
No, you're doing fine.
You've been hacked.
You're doing very well, Stephen. Relax, breathe. Yeah. I have a story on this. I tried to open it so I could actually read it to you because I wrote it a long time ago, but my computer's memory is low, so I'll have to do it from human memory. this is the story of Jimmy Brogan is the kindest man in show business, and how I learned to stop hating name redacted for legal reasons. When I moved to LA, I was living on the roof of the Comedy Store, answering their phones during the day, making not enough to rent an apartment. And Chrissy Francis made me the house MC down at Chrissy Francis's Hollywood Comedy Room.
I did that room a couple times under the name of Jean.
Yeah, I remember that. What a lovely lady. Yeah,
I
loved
that room.
Yeah, it was really fun, and I was doing a different act there. I was doing just a generic comic wearing a simple sweater and premises, but no real punchlines. And then I went under the name of Gene Eric, which
you and I had a conversation about that, because I had a bit in my act at the Improv in New York when I was 18, in which I said I've been working on some conceptual comedy, and then I did a series of jokes that weren't, and then eventually I would just go out through the little side door and be a comic who wasn't on stage telling jokes that weren't from Not in the Club.
Yes. Like the jokes like, so this guy comes up to me, hasn't had a bite in 3 days, so I gave him a couple $, told him about a great restaurant. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm doing Chrissy Francis's room, and I make it my job, if I'm the MC, I am not just the host for the audience. I am the host for the comics as well. So my job is to make I'm hyper attentive and professional. I'm doing all sorts of shit that I think is very, very important. And there's a guy whose name I do not remember. It was Marty something. He used to hang out and try to sell jokes.
Marty Scheinman.
I'll buy that.
Yeah.
Jimmy.
Don Barris.
Yeah. And Jimmy was preparing for his next Tonight Show spot, so he had to have material. He couldn't do Where You From, What Do You Do for a living?
Yeah.
And he's got a joke that he's doing, getting ready for the next Tonight Show set. His joke is, I get my hair cut at Supercuts because it's $8. Well, $8.25 with tip. That's the joke. It's not a huge, but it's a little laugh, right?
Right.
He comes off stage. I bring up the next guy. I come off stage, and Marty is hanging on Jimmy, going, you need Supercuts jokes, Jimmy? I got Supercuts jokes. I got this. How about this? You can do this. You can do, I was a little short on cash. I went to Pretty Good Cuts. What do you think? Pretty Good Cuts.
Yeah.
Couldn't afford Super, so you could go to Pretty Good Cuts. And Jimmy's going, and in order to rescue him, in my mind, I put my arm around Jimmy. He said, you need Supercuts jokes, Jimmy? I got a Supercuts joke. And I put my arm around him, and I walk him away from Marty, and I thank him for being on the show.
Mm-hmm.
And then Jimmy says, so what do you got on Supercuts? And I said, I only have one Supercuts joke, and I wasn't really, I was just trying to save you from that conversation. Oh, that's very sweet of you. What do you got on Supercuts? And I said, every time I go to Supercuts for like 2 weeks afterwards, all of my friends keep saying, did you just take a nap? And he said, oh, that's pretty funny. Can I buy it? And I had never sold a joke before. And I said, yeah, how much do jokes go for? And he said, $25. And I said, cool. And he said, let me go try it out. Next week, if it's working, I'll pay you. Next week, he comes in, he gives me $50 in a check. I said, thank you very much, but you said it was 25. He said, that was in case it didn't work.
Wow.
Very sweet.
Yeah.
He says,
I'm sorry.
that's okay. You can just say.
No, I didn't. I don't want to interrupt your story.
okay.
I thought that was the story.
He says, never take less than $50 for a joke. I say, okay. So I have this joke out there in the world. I see it get its first laugh on the Tonight Show. He gets me the gig writing freelance for Jay when Jay takes over the Monday nights. He's very kind to me over the years. And then a famous comic whose name is redacted from this story stole a joke from me. And it made me angry.
And still living.
He's still living at this time. And I ran into him at the Improv. And I remembered, the time we had worked together that he had said, "Can I buy that joke from you?" And I had said no. And now people had been telling me he was doing the joke. And I found him at the Improv and I said, "Hey, you're doing a joke of mine." He said, "Which joke?" And I told him the joke. And he said, "Oh, no, word for word, that's mine." And I said, "No, I could tell you when you heard me do it." And we had this conversation. He said, "What year did you write it?" And I said, 1983. And he said, 1982. It's my joke. At which point I learned my most important Hollywood lesson. Always let the other guy bid first. Now, I became, for about 5 years, I was like the corner street lookout for people stealing jokes. I'm on the phone to people all the time going, "Hey, I heard this kid is doing your joke. What do you want me to do about it? Should I talk to him? What do you want me?" Like, I was just being an asshole about anyone stealing jokes because this was infuriating to me that he had stolen this joke, done it on television, and was becoming increasingly famous and blew me off, right?
I was going to say, Dylan, hang on, put it on pause for a second. 'Cause I don't want to lose my thought here. I don't want to.
It's fine. It's fine. It's a conversation. Talk, Stephen.
Is it? I'm kidding. I was a singer-songwriter wannabe. I mean, I was writing songs and playing coffee houses, and
I still am.
yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, but I was doing it back in the mid '70s. Before I became a comedian, and we had something in Hollywood called the SRS, the Songwriters Resource Services. They were located on Hollywood Boulevard. It was a poor man's copyright, so you basically record your song on a cassette tape, bring it to them, pay them $10, and then they date stamp it and have a notary public. So if you did, you could threaten lawsuit. I always thought there should be some kind of online joke registry.
I agree, but also it becomes very complicated for all the same reasons that you can't properly copyright a magic trick.
That's the reason. The ultimate. I thought this through. You can sue somebody for stealing your trademark magic trick if that's what people at Vegas are paying millions of dollars a year to see, and someone steals it. There are proprietary laws in this country regarding intellectual material.
The only way to copyright a magic trick is to write a short play in which the illusion is described as taking place on stage.
For the same thing in stand-up, that if you want to copyright your stand-up, you put it on screen
on TV.
The problem is that you can't prove enough damages on the club circuit to make it a threat.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
If it was a movie, you could be threatening them with embarrassment of the industry, a lot of backlash from the Writers Guild, and a lot of money stolen from them, and then fan base that's moved on. So there's a lot at stake if a movie.
At least so we like to imagine.
But if you steal from a stand-up, what do you think, Brian?
Well, I always think it's really tough to, like Dylan was describing, that you need to let the other person go first when saying how long ago they did it, because I faced that with Puddle's Pity Party, this clown guy.
Love him.
Oh, well, I don't in the least, because he posted a video.
This is the funniest moment of the show. I know what story is coming. Dylan doesn't.
Okay.
Because it goes out on YouTube, and it's a bit that I've been doing since 1990.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Which bit?
It's Pinball Wizard, as sung by Johnny Cash to the tune of Folsom Prison Blues.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's pretty damn specific, isn't it?
Yep, that was my. In fact, the way I got that bit was somebody just came up to me after a gig in New York. I was doing some Johnny Cash bit. He says, "You know that Pinball Wizard and Folsom Prison Blues are interchangeable?" I thought that out in my head. I said, "You just wrote me 5 minutes of material."
Did you do this at the first High on Laughter at Edinburgh, the one at the Queen's Hall?
Sure, I did it all three. I probably.
Okay, but let me point out, and I hate to do this to you, man, but I feel I must, that Puddle's Pity Party actually stole that bit from some guy who approached you after a gig.
Oh, no, he claimed where he claimed that he had gotten the bit from someone in Atlanta, and
So it may be second or third hand theft. We just cannot know.
but yeah, but it was kind of sad. He was he's doing this bit and getting millions of hits on YouTube, and if I do it, I have to.
Since I was pregnant with you.
I tried to keep gaining weight, so I couldn't dance anymore.
Sorry, guys, I didn't cue this up right. I think it comes up right now.
Johnny Cash,
Yeah.
Pinball Wizard.
Here it is.
Ever since I was a young boy, I played the silver ball. From Soho down to Brighton, I must have played them all, but I ain't seen nothing like him in any amusement hall. Well, that deaf and dumb and blind kid sure plays a mean pinball. Yeah!
That's kind of laughter, isn't it?
Brian, can I just say this publicly, because I don't think I ever had.
What?
This was one of the proudest moments of my life and still remains. This was the first High on Laughter at August in 2000 at the 90s.
Yeah, George Wendt and
George Wendt, Zach Galifianakis, and Sheila Martin, and Neil Malarkey, and it was just great. Ronnie Golden.
Mirza was in that one, I think.
Shazia was scheduled, didn't show, just like Rich Hall.
Oh.
Didn't show. Not even, these no shows. Margaret Cho, Dylan, this is a good story. The next year, I produced it at the 3,300 seat theater in Edinburgh, and Margaret Cho, who I hardly knew, agreed to do it. I already had 15 comics, including Emo Phillips and Mark Thomas and Charles Fleischer, who was replaced by Johnny Vegas. It was a great show. Mike Dugan, Overton, great show. Margaret Cho doesn't do the show and shows up at the after party at this suite of flats in Edinburgh I had rented, and comes up to me, and the first thing I said was, "Oh, good, it's Margaret No Cho."
Nice.
She didn't like that, but I wanted to say this, Rick. One of my proudest moments was the moment of seeing you on stage killing in Edinburgh. I know it was hard for you to get there for a lot of reasons. Part of it was my fault a few years earlier, but
no, it was my fault too.
Well, we share fault on that. But
as long as everyone feels terrible, that's what matters.
That's what matters. But I have to say, I'm so proud of this moment right here, where you're on stage, and it just confirmed my reality of why I wanted to be in the UK, that it's never too late in England. It's never too late. So
it's never too late anywhere, Stephen.
Well, but in England in particular, they didn't care about how old you were or whatever. They just cared that you were funny and that audiences reacted.
Well,
so
plus you have no baggage. There's no baggage because, first of all, the audiences in England aren't looking at a comic on stage before you go on who was just introduced he's on the Tonight Show. He's got an HBO special. Because back then, even today, Tonight Show means nothing in England. Well, maybe more now because of the internet. HBO, they didn't get, The Sopranos had to play on Sky TV, a Fox affiliate. They didn't have HBO when this comedy stuff was going on. So it just wiped everyone's credits clean. It was like an apocalyptic movie where everyone who's a star, their credits are wiped clean. And now you feel like, okay, every man for himself. All right, listen, this is one of the greatest. I'm so happy. Dylan, say something, and then I'm going to do our second pub quiz.
Okay, I'm going to say something, and it's going to be longer than you hope before the second pub quiz. I'm sorry to throw your timing off, but here we go.
Okay.
So I'm at the LA Cabaret, and I see a guy stealing material, and I am now the corner guard for people stealing material.
Corner guard. What sport is that from?
I have no idea. I see. I was imagining somebody walking kids across the street for school. Frankly, when I said corner guard, I was imagining a lookout for a drug dealer. That's
but here's like a lollipop lady.
Exactly. I'm constantly looking for anyone who might be stealing jokes, and a kid does a Will Shriner bit. that makes no sense for him to be doing. Because this kid is in his like late 20s, and it's a Will Shriner bit. Will's in his late 30s, 40s by then, and it's about being married and having, like, it makes no sense, but I recognize it as a Shriner bit. I get to the payphone, I call Will. I say, Will, I'm at LA Cabaret. There's a kid here doing your bit. What should I do? He says, what bit? I tell him. He says, okay. I said, should I talk to him? No. Should I approach about it at all? Should I say something to the owner? No. What are you going to do about it? I'm going to write a new bit. I said, what? And he said, listen, if this kid is stealing from me, he can't write material to keep up. If he's stealing from me, he needs the material worse than I do. You and me, Dylan, we can always write something new. That kid is struggling on stage. And I remembered at that moment being on stage in England and stealing from everybody I knew because I had to fill more time than I was ready for. Yeah. And it was like a dam of empathy and understanding broke open in me. And 10 years later, I'm doing the Ventura Comedy Festival. Jimmy Brogan walks into the green room. I haven't talked to him since Leno was doing Monday nights, really. And I say, Jimmy, I owe you $50. I want to give you $50. Mm-hmm. And he says, why? And I hand him the $50. And I say, well, because this happened. You gave me this money for this joke. And now I want to tell this story on stage. And that means I'll be doing the joke again. And he handed me back the 50 and said, I remember that joke. I'm going to start doing that joke again. And I said, so I shouldn't do the story? He said, well, hell no, Dylan. He didn't say hell no. He's too clean for that. He said, oh, no, Dylan. If someone sees me and then 6 months later they see you tell a story about me, or they see you tell a story about me and then 6 months later they see me and they see the same joke, that's just a really long, weird callback.
Yeah. But perfect. But perfect for real comedy stories, which you were great on. And by the way, we got to do a pub quiz, and then we have a guest coming in. I'm sorry to cut you off, Dylan.
That's fine. That's the story. Go to it.
The expectations is a little bit too high for my drug tolerance. All right. Is this a second round, Brian, or a third round?
This is only the second because we just got stuff in it. It's Stephen 2, Dylan 0.
Okay.
So
time to catch up.
All righty.
All to play for, gentlemen.
Okay. The 1985 album Brothers in Arms was the first to sell 1 million copies in compact disc format. Who was the English band that created that album?
Dire Straits?
Straits is the answer.
Right. Boom.
Yes.
It's
Funny
big asking the question that I forget it. That's funny. Well done, Dylan.
Big Knopfler fan.
2-1. Yeah. I love his singing stuff. Well, I like too that he does all this intricate stuff without a guitar pick. It's all finger picking.
Really?
Oh yeah.
And playing an electric. He must just have huge calluses on the strumming hand. So anyway, next question. Children's television. The costumed figures of Fleagle, Bingo, Drooper, and Snorky were collectively known by what name?
The Banana Splits. That's the Banana Splits.
Wow.
It's 2-2.
Wow.
Okay.
I'm starting to feel deflated.
No.
I got my
Okay.
hair.
That's how I do. This is how I do my hair every day. Is that I blow it out so that it's huge in the morning, and then over the course of the day it deflates just a little bit with each disappointment and rejection, so that by the evening my spirit is crushed, but my hair is perfect.
Looks fantastic.
Thank you.
Okay, so this one, the only question I had about all this royal shit that went over the last weekend.
This royal shit.
That's the new king, I believe, that he's referring to there. The royal shit.
The royal shit.
So, two of the people that were performing at the concert, the coronation concert, were Katy Perry and Lionel Richie. They were doing those great English performers. So anyway, but they took leave from the show that they regularly do in America to be over here. They did a remote broadcast to this particular show, and they brought Charles and Camilla on screen to wave to the people in America. What show was it?
The Prince's Trust.
No,
it's for America. Was it The Voice?
You're very
The American Idol?
American Idol.
Really?
Yeah, so Charles and Camilla appeared on American Idol because Katy Perry had London. She brought them on, and they, said hello to the fans back here.
I got rid of my television a couple of months ago. It's been great for my head, but I do miss these things.
It's not. That's
you've moved into the lead, Dylan.
That's not something to get your TV back over, I don't think, boy. Other people's obsolete monarchies aren't a favorite pastime of mine, quite frankly.
It just about everyone I know here just thought the whole thing was bullshit, and it's like, why do people care about these people that have never had to work and everything is free for them, and all they do,
I mean, but the truth is that they're overpaid, but they do work, and they are ceremonial, but they do a lot of charity work, like the Prince's Trust, which supports artists, which supports the culture of the country. I think they support the culture.
It difficult now, because Harry decided to dismiss himself from that whole thing, so now he can only play on being famous for so long before they want to know, well, what are you famous for? Do something to really warrant this.
Well, I mean, this is an argument that I posted on Facebook yesterday about nepotism, and I've gotten into arguments with people on this already about a lot of the main people in showbiz. A lot of them. There's a lot of nepotism.
Oh yes,
I saw that, and I got sidetracked with it because I wanted to put in, and I wanted to see if anyone mentioned Liv Tyler in there. But
Julian Lennon.
Yeah, yes. Oh God. And also a lot of the famous people that I knew came from moneyed families anyway.
There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, I grew up in Beverly Hills where, friends of mine's parents were Lucille Ball or, Gregory Peck. The thing is that you grow up in a town, you're given acting lessons and dance lessons when you're 3 years old, and you're indoctrinated into the industry. So there's a reason to have expectations, but it's got to the point where America, everyone wants to be famous because that's where the money is.
Well, we've given up the idea that there is anything that is success other than great fame and impossible wealth.
Exactly.
Right? We've entirely let go of the idea of the nobility of work, the validity,
quality work,
and appreciation for the creation of something worthy if it is not ubiquitous.
Yeah.
I will say this, and I've been saying it for 40 years. Why would I stop now? Capitalism poisons everything. As soon as the goal is to collect symbols of something that is already not something real, rather than the creation of something that is, we have lost our way as a society and a civilization.
Yeah, what do we do about it? Because we've clearly lost our way on so many levels.
I keep creating. Look, Stephen, the reason I created my company was because I believe that there is space in the entertainment audience, the mainstream entertainment audience's bandwidth for thoughtful art, for thoughtful, constructive, productive art of the old school kind. And I continue to bring my A game to the best of my ability to an industry that is not interested in the arts. When I'm working for a comedy club, I'll do 4 to 1 minute laugh per minute ratio, but I will also make certain that I'm telling full stories with ideas behind them, as I do when I'm working for my crowd.
Dylan, can I just say this very cynically and comically and in character? That's not me. you're the exact reason why comics are going to be replaced by AI.
That's exactly right. I was incredibly disappointed at the WGA strike. One of the things we're striking for is to make certain that, sorry, I'll lower my voice again. I'm aware that I break up when I get loud. Is to make certain that when AI writes the scripts, there's a writer in the room giving it the prompts and doing the polish. Like, the strike we're on right now is for a contract that already includes preemptive surrender to the robots. Because the industry doesn't care how good the work is. The industry cares how profitable it is and that the profit margin keeps rising. Whereas as an artist, I am going to keep bringing my A game to the arts. And every time people say it's not show art, it's show business, I will point out to them that without my artistry, they're doing business with a shoddy product.
And a lot of them don't care, probably.
And those aren't the people I want to work with.
Yeah, but you know what, guys? As much as I totally agree with Dylan, McDonald's sells more burgers than Herb's Burgers, or
Well, McDonald's sells more burgers than any high-end restaurant does.
Mhm.
They're busy serving steak to fewer people.
Mhm.
And the fact that you haven't heard of the restaurant doesn't make it a failure.
Well, this is one of the things I was thinking about yesterday. I'm watching a lot of TikTok. Let me tell you the best pizza I found in Los Angeles. This is definitely the best pizza. And there's some guy goes to this pizza place. It's like my old joke about the Academy Awards. Best film of the year. What if it was a shitty year? How do we know this pizza guy checked every single of the pizza places, of the 22,000 pizza places in Los Angeles? We know he didn't. He just found his favorite. And it's the same thing in booking. Is yes, they're always going to look at, but comedy clubs and networks and movie studios are always going to look at the bottom line. The bean counters are going to essentially run the studio. It's like Congress. They hold the checkbook. Totally get it, right? That's why Congress is so powerful, because they hold the purse strings, right? So this is essentially, politics has become a fight over money, and the same thing in Hollywood. However, there are some heroes that emerged. George Clooney, billionaire now, deservedly so in my opinion, although I haven't tried the vodka. Tequila, I mean. Sorry, George. Is a patron of the arts. Frances McDormand is a patron of the arts. They will participate for low or no money in art films, important films like Good Night and Fuck You. What was it? Good Night and Good Luck. And
when I used to work the Zephyr Theater, there was a lot of independent plays that were bankrolled by famous people, and they would show up there, and it was just totally like they believed in the product, so they wanted to get it a showcase. So it was, there's plenty of people in Hollywood that are benevolent, but
it's not enough. There's a tidal wave of Marvel magic and other stuff that just doesn't appeal to anybody who's got an education, and that we have to put up with that.
Well, I have an education, and I understand the appeal of the Marvel stuff, and I grew up reading the comic books. And if these movies had existed when I was a child, I would have been all in for them.
Of course.
There's a danger in the Marvel movies that grows out of Reagan era shift in entertainment, which is that ultimately they're all fascist messaging. The underlying assumption is that we'll all be okay if we can just have an ethical strongman in charge of protecting us.
Well, and there were a lot of movies made during the Reagan years that really, like I always think of Top Gun and the Rambo movies. They brought that, that those movies were of their era. And it's interesting that Top Gun.
Get your guitars. I think it's time to soften things up a little bit.
Okay.
I'm told to get my guitar. I get my guitar.
Thank you.
What key are we in?
Depends what we do. Oh wait, Daniel's about to join us. Okay, Daniel, hang on. We're just going to do a quick tune. How about this? In G, we'll do the Rolling Stones, Dead Flowers. It's basically G, D, and C.
G, D, C. I got it.
Yeah, right.
Go to work.
When you're sitting back in your rose-pink Cadillac, shaking bets on Kentucky Derby Day. I'll be in my basement room with a needle and a spoon. Another girl to keep my pain away. Take me down, little Susie. Take me down. I know you think you're the queen of the underground, and you can send me dead flowers in the morning. Wedding sister.
And I won't forget to put
Oh, one more. Twiddle my thing.
Amazing that we were in tune. So,
All right, listen. Danny showed up. That was fun. Let's add this. Dylan, come back every week and play a song with us.
That's deeply silly. I love you guys. Thank you so much for having me on. This
No,
was
you're
fun.
not leaving anywhere.
Oh, I'm staying here. I'm not going anywhere.
No, yeah, we need your support because this next guy, very good friend of mine, and one of the best human beings I've ever met in the world, which isn't saying much because it's a shitty world. And he's also one of the funniest comedians and accomplished. He had a podcast called Modern Day Philosophers. He's interviewed Mel Brooks and Carl Reiner and Julius Caesar. And
I've been on it.
And you've been on it, and I've been on it. And anyway, here's what happened. Some meth head neighborhood broke in and stole $20,000 or so worth of equipment.
I am not a meth head.
All right, Dylan.
I just needed the money.
This is an intervention. No reason to be defensive. Please welcome Danny LaBelle.
Hello.
yes.
Thank you. That was Danny LaBelle. Thank you, Danny. Bye.
Oh, that-
No,
yeah.
Danny, hi.
My credits now include a burglary victim, and it's
Oh,
funny
can you-
because
Can
Stephen,
you build a career out of that? Yeah.
Stephen, you'll appreciate this because and so will you, Dylan, and Brian. You probably will too. But we work so hard to try and be creative and put out positive things in the world. And we hope to get some attention for that. And the world just says, no. And then you get robbed and everyone's like, well, now this is interesting.
Yeah, right. Dylan's agreeing. What's going through your mind, Dylan?
No, you just wrote,
I actually don't work that hard at being noticed for what I do, but I'm not at all surprised that people respond immediately to tragedy. That's really more fun for people to stare at and point than people, doing okay and showing their work off. Danny, you look great, man. Did you get your notification today about the Marina Del Rey Film Festival?
If I did, it went past me because my mind has just been like,
Well, there's video that Danny, you were on the local CBS News. I don't think I can show that because StreamYard, our platform, doesn't have the rights, so the show will get taken down. Hang on, my producers are having
listen
a
to
fight
this,
about
Stephen. Listen to this. Yesterday, KTLA shows up. Then comes KCAL. I'm on their news. Then comes NBC Telemundo.
Telemundo.
Then comes Fox News.
oh,
You're kidding me.
Then comes
Well-
this morning, I wake up and Kylie says there's 2 news stations waiting to talk to you outside. ABC and Inside Edition.
You're
okay.
kidding me.
When Fox
I'm telling
News,
you, Stephen, I've worked so hard to make comedy content that people would care about. And I send out press releases and everything, and nobody cares. I make one-man shows. I bring them to Edinburgh. I go into tons of debt. I'm standing out in the rain, handing out flyers like a putz for entire summers in a faraway land. Nobody gives a crap. Somebody robs me. All of a sudden, everybody says, "Oh, this guy's interesting."
yeah.
Danny,
well-
as your press agent, I want to say you're welcome. I set this up. It cost me a couple of grand to. It cost me actually just a bottle of hooch. I paid the street
God.
guy. I knew this would help you.
You said
If I
Fox
wasn't
News,
so terrified going to
just wanted-
sleep at night,
I wanted to
because
ask you, Danny.
Yeah.
Let me ask you something. when Fox News came to interview you, were they looking for some kind of conspiracy that maybe it was Hunter Biden that did it, or?
Well,
Yeah.
I'll say this: the gentleman who interviewed me was a very warm and nice guy, but he did kind of want me. He was kind of coaxing me to talk badly about the mayor, but I don't have negative feelings about the mayor. You know, I'm not a Democrat and I'm not a Republican. I consider myself an independent who's repulsed by most politicians. So I believe in God, but I don't believe in politics. I think some people believe in politics, but they don't believe in God. I don't know. I'm on the side of I believe in God, but I think politics are the way atheists think God is. You know, I think it's all made up nonsense. But I actually do kind of like Mayor Bass. And I heard her speak, and she seemed very eloquent, and she seemed very much from the heart. So I take people on an individual level.
Is she the first female LA mayor?
She's the female
Yeah.
version of the mayor. Yeah, there's two
Mayor
mayors.
Karen Bass.
There's the real
So,
mayor, and
you
then
know,
there's the female mayor.
Because San Francisco has a female mayor now too, with the great name of London Breed.
Oh yeah, we need a trans mayor. We need a trans president.
Yeah, or even
Sorry, I'm getting all these.
But Danny, the good news is, Danny,
I'm
can you hear?
guys. I'm gonna have to disappoint you and leave in 5 minutes because the lawyer needs to talk to me.
Actually,
Yeah.
leave before 5 minutes because we've only got 5 minutes. We got to finish some stuff. But Danny, I want to congratulate you on the podcast bus. In 48 hours or less, you guys have raised $20,000. That's incredible.
Yeah, brilliant.
It's pretty touching. It's so amazing. Like, you know, I couldn't sleep since this happened, and I'll show you. I'm laying in bed right now because I'm so tired from not sleeping. Oh man, where'd it go? I have a metal pipe around here somewhere that I sleep next to because
Danny.
I keep expecting this guy's gonna come back. So
Danny,
it's been a very harrowing experience, but there's a lot of love out there.
Danny, if it would help you to feel more comfortable, I am happy to start giving you martial arts training. Let me know.
Right.
And also, congratulations on Reconquistador, your film with Stand Up Records that is doing beautifully, as I understand it, on the festival circuit, and will be shown, I believe, at the same time as on the same festival as My Lockdown 2020 down at Marina Del Rey. It's your film is terrific. Congratulations.
Oh,
Thank you,
Thank
Danny.
you.
God bless you
see a
too.
nice
I
message just
love
popped
all
up. I
four
wanna
of
say
you there.
congratulations to you as well on your film, Dylan, and I will take you up
I have to watch your film.
even if we just do one martial arts training. Any excuse to spend time with you is a good one, you know.
oh, right.
I'm a big Dylan Brody fan. Always have
Just
been.
feel the love in this room. It's
I'm a big Danny Lobel fan, and the shaved look is good for you, man.
Thank you.
I
Danny,
like
thanks
it.
for coming. My love to Kylie and the kids. We'll speak
Yeah,
soon.
nice.
And Steven, you know I got nothing but love for you too. I love you guys. And Brian, I only know you through this show, but you seem like a pretty swell dude.
I think so. Thank you.
Yeah.
Loaned me
Take care,
40
take
backs
care,
for
dude.
weed 30 years ago.
Thanks, Danny. Take care.
All right. God bless you guys.
Take care, bro.
By the way, before it's too late, I wanted to talk about one other thing. Just really, give me 90 seconds on this. April 17th, we did Real Comedy Stories at Genghis Cohen. Dylan was on the show, and Melinda Hill asked to be on the show, and she was on the show, but only after the poster was designed. I just want to say how proud I am of this. How great
You should be.
it was. And
Yeah,
by the way,
Lister too.
the Yard Theater, there was all this shenanigans behind the scenes about who books what at Genghis Cohen. It's still not solved. I don't know what happened. It's just a mess, and we were looking at other venues. Meanwhile, I pitched the Yard Theater, which is run by John Ennis from Mr. Show. It's a great theater. They want it.
Just looking, this Pebbles Brunel, was that the woman who used to hang out at the store back in the 80s?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, hung out with Sam and.
Oh, really? Yeah, she was in Easy Rider, and yeah, everyone was great, and Pebbles was wonderful. See, it doesn't. One thing is we don't do credits on this show, on the live show. I don't care what your credits are. The audience doesn't care. It's what your story is about. How good is it? And Dylan, you were fantastic. I think we got time for one more pub quiz before Brian has to go to bed. Can we push it, Brian?
Okay, really quick.
Because it's a tie, right?
No, actually,
No, I'm winning.
Dylan pulled ahead 3-2. So, Spirits. Which spirit is flavored with juniper berries?
Gin.
Yeah. He got it.
Okay. Shakespeare. In Romeo and Juliet, what line follows, "What light through yonder window breaks"?
It is the sun, and Juliet is the moon.
Close.
Is the sun and Juliet is the east?
It's the east, and Juliet is the sun.
It is the east, and Juliet is the sun. Fuck, arise, fair sun. Yeah.
You get that. Okay, so now it's
No, it's
5 to 2. I'm not going to win, but let's just have one more question here.
Okay. Disney. In what animated feature is Ursula the name of the main villain?
The Little Mermaid.
Oh, man, Dylan's just on a roll here. So
What was the answer? I was talking.
The Little Mermaid.
So you'll know what was the answer. I was talking is a sentence that I heard my mother say just after I had asked my father anything.
I love it. Listen, this has been one of the best. Next week, our guest is
It's Rich Scheidner, isn't it?
It's Scheidner. Yeah, he's coming to
Oh,
Yes. Yeah,
there we go.
and
Rich Scheidner and then Patrick Mulligan, Steve Middleman.
we can add for June 14th, we got Miles Crawford.
Oh, I got to add that.
Yeah.
Dylan, thank you so much. You're the best. You've just uplifted our show.
Yeah,
I love you guys. Thanks for having me on. June 11th at Marina Del Rey. Come down and see the Lockdown 2020, my multiple award-winning, internationally acclaimed micro-budget feature film.
I'm DJing at King's Head on Friday.
Can you send me a notification, or is it a Facebook thing?
I'll send it everywhere. I'll be telling everyone very soon. Don't worry.
Yeah. Okay, then.
Okay,
all right. Great to see you again, Dylan. And you're looking good with the hair. I wish
you're looking good your own self.
Well,
when's Miles Crawford on? I'm going to add him to the thing. When's Miles Crawford on?
June 14th.
And it's
So-
M-I-L-E-S,
and then like Joan Crawford.
Dylan, thank you so much for doing this. And Brian, I didn't get a chance to ask you how Maggie is. I assume she's well.
Yeah, her kitchen just got done today. I mean,
is that a British sexual metaphor?
Well, no, it was supposed to take 3 weeks, and it's taken 10 to get. She actually was having her kitchen redone. There was no innuendo of any kind, but it just took a lot longer than she expected. But
that comes from a joke, a great joke. Oh, Dylan's gone. A great joke. Let's close with this if I can. So,
okay,
if you're
go
gonna
ahead.
get a minute. Older couple goes to see a sex doctor. They're having some issues, and basically, doctor tells them that it's the man's penis, and for $5,000, you can give him an operation, which will allow him to have an erection, but he won't feel anything, and then. But for $25,000, he could have an erection. He can feel something, but he won't get an erection. And then for $50,000, he can have an erection and he can feel things. So he says to the couple, go home and talk about it. They come back, see the doctor on Monday, and doctor says, "So what'd you two decide?" And the wife and the husband are there, and the wife says, "We're gonna have the kitchen remodeled." Brian, I love you. Thank you so much. I'll see you next week.
Okay.
Same time, same channel.
All right. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for tuning in.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody. It's Comedy Dish.